We're good? Call the meeting to order. Can I have a mover and a second to open the meeting? Councilor Poitier, Councilor Framboise.
Moved by Councilor Poitier and seconded by Councilor Framboise, be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment meeting of April 15, 2025 be opened at 6 p.m.
All those in favor? Carried. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Robinson Huron Treaty Territory, and the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Ataygamikshne Anishinaabe. We also wish to recognize our neighboring community of Doki's First Nation. While we meet today, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous people and their culture. Can I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? Councilor Loftus and Councilor Poitier.
Moved by Councilor Loftus and seconded by Councilor Poitier, be it resolved that the agenda for the Committee of Adjustment meeting held April 15, 2025 be adopted as presented.
All those in favor? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, Councilor Framboise.
None, Your Worship.
Councilor Loftus.
None, Your Worship.
Councilor Poitier.
None, Your Worship.
And none for myself. Moving to seconder to adopt the minutes from January 21st. Councilor Poitier, Councilor Loftus.
Moved by Councilor Poitier and seconded by Councilor Loftus, be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment hereby adopts the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held January 21, 2025.
Okay, no additions or, okay, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, this evening, there is a public hearing scheduled for one proposed minor variance, application number A/03/25/SC, Chelsea and Denis Bézina. The Committee of Adjustment is holding a public hearing to decide whether to approve a minor variance application. The committee will be presented with the details and backgrounds to the minor variance application and will receive comments from the public agencies before committee decision is made.
Thank you. So notice of public hearing was posted in the municipal office and was sent to mail to the assessed owners within 60 meters of the property subject to the minor variance application tonight, and to those persons and agencies likely to have an interest in the application for minor variance. So the notices were sent on March 26, 2025, being over 10 days prior to this evening's meeting. So with minor variance application, when you send out the notice, and in that notice you have, I provide a brief description of the purpose and intent of it. I also provide any additional information, in this case a particularly site plan, aerial imagery, and key maps. So additional information goes with that summary, and that's the information that's shared with the neighboring properties. And with the minor variance application, under the Planning Act, which is law, that's 60 meters. So you have to provide the law of 60 meters. So generally speaking, in this particular case, the neighbors, maybe a few neighbors to the right, a few neighbors to the left would get this notice. So that's how that process works in terms of just circulation, making sure that the right people get the right information as this public process is heard this evening.
All right, thank you very much. I now declare this public hearing to deal with application number A/03/25/SC, Chelsea and Denis Bézina. The Director of Planning will advise the purpose and effect of the minor variance application and provide any other information that is relevant to the application.
Thank you. So this evening, the request is the permission for the construction of a new dwelling unit at 510A Lake Road. So that's the purpose and intent. Now, part of undergoing this process to construct this new home, there are two requirements that they're requesting variances to. One is the high water mark. What does that mean? That means the setback from the water's edge to where they're building. The bylaws state that you need to be 20 meters, so that's 66 feet. So they need relief for that this evening. And the second item is lot coverage, and I'll explain that as well. So they're just slightly over what's the 15% threshold for buildable area. Again, I'll go a little bit more details on my presentation this evening. So those are the two variances that are in front of the committee. One is from the high water mark and the other is for the lot coverage under the waterfront zone. So when the committee considers decisions of minor variance applications, there's 4 tests. The 4 tests have to be met under the Planning Act. You can't have 3 out of 4 or 2 out of 4. All 4 tests need to be satisfied and conform in order for supportability from staff, i.e. myself in this particular case. So what I do is I look at those 4 tests and I provide that in my report. So the first test isn't minor, and I provide justification on that. So I talk about the 13.5 meter from the high water mark. That's what they're proposing. And so I did conduct a site visit as well, so it always helps when providing justification to, support or maybe defer, deny, depending what the outcome is to committee. So in this particular case, the neighboring property to the west, which is 510 Lake Road, has a 1-story cottage, which is located about 17 meters from the high water mark. Again, looking at aerial imagery, I'm using basically the information that I have to approximate where their cottage is existing. Which is only 3.5 meters further back from where they're proposing there. Again, just providing context to the committee. The neighboring property to the east, so now on the other side, 570 Lake Road, also is a 1-story seasonal cottage situated approximately just slightly further back within that 20-meter setback. So they're approximately 18.6 meters from the high water mark, which is again 5 meters difference between what they're proposing and where their existing camp. And if you go further east, you'll notice a few other cottages actually closer, but they're legal non-conforming or legal non-complying. So I just looked at each neighboring property because the impact on that, is there an impact or not? So I also noted that there's presence of mature pine and cedar trees over 20 feet high along the interior lot line. So between the neighbor to the west, if you go to the site, there's mature trees, so it acts as a buffer, which is great. So the neighboring properties are not going to see their new home. They just won't, unless they cut down all their 20-foot trees, which most likely won't happen. So that's the interior lot line between those 2 neighbors. That's 510, 510A. It acts as a natural buffer, significantly reducing any visual or environmental impact. 7, so then I go back to the east side. Again, I'm comparing the characteristics here. 570 Lake Road is situated further east, meaning like the neighbor to the west is close, but they have a nice existing buffer. The neighbor to the east is separated further away from their lot line, so there's a greater distance. There's no buffer, but the buffer's in distance. So that's a natural buffer as well, just a different type. So no issue there. The next test, is it desirable for the appropriate development of land? So that's the test you have to see if make sure it conforms to that test. The development is appropriate because it's improving the property, replacing an outdated structure, and enhancing the site's functionality. So what I mean by that, it's not existing, the structure there, they already tore it down. So there used to be, if you go on MPAC, there used to be an old mobile home with some additions that were on it. So they removed that, cleaned all that up, so it's already removed, it's gone. So they're improving the site with a new septic system, new dwelling unit. So again, that's another reason behind supporting this test. I also note that the new septic system located behind the cottage, which is very important. It's not going to be located in front, it's in the rear of what's already going to be 13.5 meters, plus the depth of the home, plus a separation about the hydro line. I'll talk about that shortly. And then their septic system is directly on the aerial infrastructure of hydro. The last 2 tests are, does it meet the intent of the zoning bylaw and does it meet the intent of the official plan? So you got to make sure it conforms to those policy documents. Zoning bylaw, so the proposed setback of 13.5 meters is still a significant distance from the water's edge. The new cottage, in my opinion, again, will not have a detrimental effect on the water, which is west arm of Lake Nipissing. That's the body of water we're discussing this evening. I also kind of touched on the maintaining aesthetically the quality of the area, reducing visual impacts. Neighbors have already kind of noted on that. I haven't talked about the lot coverage, so I kind of touch on this in this particular test. The lot coverage is 15.73, so what's permitted is 15%. They're just slightly over, less than 1% at 15.73. I think, it's also negligible, to be honest, and does not really result in excessive development. Usually when lot coverages are exceeding a certain percentage, it's too much development. In this particular case, I'll break down the square footages in my zoning bylaw explanation. So no issues there, in my opinion. And then with the official plan, the development in the area has been used for waterfront residential for over 50 years. They tore down that existing structure, and there's no issues there. They're almost relocating it in the same area, but there's a reason why they have to locate it there. Again, I'll touch on that shortly, and really hope my next point is the hydro infrastructure. So part of this process working with the owners was they wanted to connect with Hydro One first to get some answers. So that was a very, very long process. That has nothing to do with the Sudbury's Planning Board. So this is part of development. So development is like, well, sometimes, why does certain processes take so long? Well, really behind the scenes, what's actually happening is they need information from Hydro One. So before they can do anything or properly plan for where they want to put their dwelling and come to the planning board for this type of application, where this type of application is 30 days. You have to start to finish, you have to make a decision by law. Now there's some time to leading up to prepare this type of information, making sure you have it. But they spent several months with Hydro One trying to get just somebody to talk to, just to get answers, and they couldn't get any information. So they just said, you know what, we can't wait anymore. So we're gonna move forward with this, and part of this process is to circulate to Hydro One. Like, we have contacts within Sudbury's Planning Board. So after I think like 8 or 9 months waiting, we moved forward with this, and they submitted the sketch that was done by conceptual sketch done by Tulloch. And I provided a summary to a point of contact, and the reason for this, they have a hydro pole that's on the property, but the aerial infrastructure that goes across, there's a requirement, but they couldn't get that answer from Hydro One, which was delaying everything because they don't want to invest all this money and then have to, move the house or demolish a portion of it. So we did get comments. The comments did state that they had some initial concerns originally. But again, I facilitated further conversation with the point of contact and provided clarity that they needed. And basically the concern was that the dwelling or the house was too close to the aerial line. So, but the sketch actually shows 4.5 meters. So 4.5 meters is Hydro One's requirement. To give you a little bit of context, when you deal with utilities such as Bell, Sudbury Hydro, the requirement's 3 meters. And that is when you have aerial infrastructure, it's 1.5 meters on this side, 1.5 meters on this side. But Hydro One in this area has a different policy. Their policy is 4.5 meters this way, 4.5 meters this way. So a total of 9 meters. So we wanted to make sure there was no issues. So originally there were concerns, but Dennis, who was on the file, didn't really clearly understand the sketch, so I kind of broke down the information. And it's clearly shown that there's a 4.5 meter setback from the aerial line to the edge of their back of their building. So he's fine with that. So I wanted to share that back and forth part of this process. So that's why they're locating basically it circles back to why are they needing relief from the high water mark. They need the relief because they got this permanent structure that is there, and for them to move it's going to cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars, so that doesn't make sense. So then they have this space, and in this space they have to work with the planning board, and they have to work with their own personal design of the home and Hydro One to make it all work. And so that was the whole purpose of this process of why they've established 13.5 meters, also meeting Hydro One setback, and here in front of the committee for the relief. So that's pretty much it. And also the septic system overall design, again, it just enhances the sustainability of the property, and that's a positive too for lake quality purposes and being set back further. Jumping into the zoning bylaw, so those are the 4 reasons why it meets those tests. Jumping into the zoning bylaw, if you look at the lot, it's a unique looking lot. You don't typically see this type of lot. They're usually rectangles, but it is what it is. It's existing. So when you look at the waterfront residential zone, the bare minimum requirements are 60 meters of water frontage, 0.8 hectares of lot area, and maximum 15 meters of lot coverage. Those are the 3 requirements. So what was existing was 1,010 square feet. That was the existing footprint of that structure that they already demolished. What they're proposing is a structure which is 29. Their home is going to be 2971 square feet total, slab on grade. The detached garage is separate, but it's already built. It's in the back. That's okay. That's 3,800 square feet, or 3,875 to be exact. And there's a shed on the property. I've already talked to the owners. They're going to be removing that, so I didn't count that square footage. So when I look at the new square footage of their home and the new square footage of their new detached garage, what I do is I take that square footage and I subtract it from the lot area. So their lot area today is 0.4 hectares. It's less than what's there, but that's considered legal non-compliance. An existing lot, yes, it doesn't meet the current threshold of 0.8 hectares. It's half of that, but it's still legal non-compliance. So no further variance required for that. So if you convert the 0.4 hectares to square feet, it's 43,531 square feet. That's a total area of their waterfront lot. You take that and you divide it based on the square footage that they're proposing for their home and the existing garage, add that together, and you get 15.73%. So that's how you calculate it. That's how I calculate the lot coverage. And it needs to be recognized as part of this process because it exceeds the 15%. Again, compliance with the zoning standards. My rationale here is, the proposal conforms to all of the other zone requirements, and I've explained why. So for that additional 0.73, again, it's minor, and the rationale is the standards are still met for the other criteria except for this one, and that's why we're in this process to address it, and they can obtain a building permit, build their home this summer, and enjoy the property. So in terms of agency review, again, circulate with staff, circulate the information with staff. The clerk, the CAO had no concerns. Fire department had no objections to the minor variance proposed, and the chief building official had no concerns. Again, I already touched on the fact that there's back and forth correspondence here with Dennis, who's the point of contact with Hydro One, and there's no concerns now. And originally there was, now there isn't, and I'm just being transparent and sharing that information with the committee this evening. And as for that, no other comments in terms of receiving a phone call or an email from the neighboring properties from the west or east. No issues there from the neighboring properties, so they didn't have any concerns as part of this process. In summary, for all the reasons I've kind of just outlined in my report, the provincial policy or provincial planning statement of 2024, our official plan for the Silver East Planning Board, the zoning bylaw for the municipality of St. Charles, all the tests have conformed to those policy frameworks. So from a land use perspective, I provided a recommendation of support to the committee this evening.
Thank you very much. Is there anything that you would like to add regarding, no?
No, I think he's covered it well.
Didn't miss many details.
No.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions from the committee to either the planner or the owners?
And then for myself, like she said, he explained it very well, and I'm in agreement with the recommendation.
All right, Councillor Locke, does any?
No questions for myself, and I'm in agreement with the recommendation.
Okay, Councillor Potier?
No questions, I'm in agreement with the recommendation. Thank you for all the detail.
All right, so if there are no further questions, therefore, can I have a mover and a seconder for the resolution? Councillor Loftus, Councillor Laframboise.
Moved by Councillor Loftus and seconded by Councillor Laframboise. Be it resolved that application A/03/25/SC by Dennis and Chelsea Vesna be approved, and that the necessary notice of decision be prepared.
All those in favor? Carried. One last thing, please be advised that a specific person, public body, or registered owner may appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal by filing a notice of appeal with the clerk of the municipality of St. Charles. The notice of appeal must set out the reasons for the appeal and must be accompanied by the required fee, which is prescribed under the Ontario Land Tribunals Act of 2017. This fee should be made payable to the Ministry of Finance All comments will be treated as public record and given out upon request. So that's it, you just have another little waiting period, and then you can.
Yeah, I'll just explain some more details, just information's always key with these processes that are new for a lot of people, so the more that I can share, the easier it makes people understand what next steps they need to take. So in terms of the committee's decision this evening, they've supported the decision, so what does that mean? That means that Nancy will be sending out notice of decision. So we have a little bit of wiggle room, like staff, like Nancy and I, we don't have to send out the notice of decision tomorrow. Generally, it's within 10 days. So theoretically, we'll do our best this week, if not next week. So keep an eye out for the notice of decision. So that notice of decision will be mailed to you. You keep that on record for future, should anybody question anything. It's like a legal document, it's there. Or you can actually give a copy to Andrea, the chief building official, just to say, hey, everything's in order, good to go. And in the meantime, what the chair had advised, the 20-day appeal process starts effectively tomorrow. So the 20 days starts tomorrow. The notice of decision can be sent out within 10 days. So just those are the 2 points I wanted to share. Just from once the 20 days is up, just go see Andrea and your notice of decision and start whatever process that is for building. You're good to go.
All right. You're good?
We're good.
Okay, perfect. Can I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn? Councilor Framboise, Councilor Potier? All those in favor? Oh, minute, whoa, I went too fast. Gotta wait. Yeah, give her a second.
Moved by Councilor LaFramboise and seconded by Councilor Pache, be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment meeting held April 15, 2025, be adjourned at 6:22 p.m.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Whoop. Meeting's adjourned.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone.